Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good golly, Miss Molly. Welcome to Rock and Roll Rowdies Live. And we've got all four Rowdies here today in one virtual room. This is incredible.
The internet will crack.
It's been a while.
Do I have to reintroduce you guys? Because some of you haven't met each other for a while.
Yeah.
Who's that guy on the right? Who's that guy in the white hair? Oh, they've all got white hair.
Yeah, no, one in the middle's got none.
So we have Alan Granny Grange, we got Mal Craigs, we got Mark, we got Wilco. Wilco's got a free hand. His cast is off.
Up at hand.
I can do that now.
Yeah.
Oh,
so we have a fully fit and healthy foursome today.
Yeah.
Do you gentlemen enjoy a foursome?
Match fit. Match fit.
A lot of threesomes with Mr. Grange and foursomes.
Well, I mean, perhaps you all shared a hotel room, which we'll talk about later. Sharing of rooms. Welcome to you all, though, and welcome to everybody out there in the world that's listening and watching, whether it be on YouTube, whether it be a replay later on the radio, or whether Deal Radio, or whether it be on Rumble or any of these other places you're watching. Welcome to you all. Welcome to those in the chat already. Andy and Davina, please give us a hand by sharing the stream out, clicking that like button, all that good stuff. We're going to be telling tales today of debauchery. Well, okay, hotel rooms. There may be debauchery, I don't know. Just to set the scene, some of the most infamous tales in rock and roll happened in certain hotels, mainly a lot of famous hotels out there. But you guys not only have stayed in those, you've stayed in was it hundreds, thousands of hotels around the world?
Thousands.
Yeah.
Thousands.
Don't remember any of them. And it's an integral part of the rock and roll touring experience, for good or for ill, is it not?
It was ill at the beginning. It was ill.
Yeah. So whilst we're going to be definitely talking about the Riot House and the Marquee and Sunset and the Gramercy and what's the one in Cleveland? Swangles. I keep calling it Swangles for some reason. Some of the more infamous ones where you guys have stayed and maybe you didn't see some of the things that went on those, but you saw some other things. But before that, before you got to America, way back in the day, in the humbler days of the Britain and Europe, very different experience, I would guess, in the late 60s, early 70s in British hotels for rockers.
In the early days, we never used to stay in hotels. I mean, you'd be driving to a gig and driving back.
Yeah.
Truckville.
Yeah.
Hotel transit.
Yeah.
All in transit van and doing all that. So very rarely do we have hotel rooms. On the occasion there might be a little very cheap bed and breakfast where you share the room with 10 other truck drivers or something.
Strangers. You shared a room with strangers.
Yeah. They're sort of like cheap hotels. I don't know.
That's marks of the secret life.
The next 30 or 40 years.
A lot of snoring going on. It was pretty rough in those days, but that was very rare. Didn't really see hotels. Stayed at friends' houses.
Was that just because it cost, Mark, or was that just because hotels didn't like sweaty rockers?
We didn't have the money.
Yeah.
Cost.
Money.
The distances didn't justify it, but the money would have been a factor. But we weren't even thinking. We were just gung ho. That's only 150 miles back. You would just drive.
Yeah, I mean, but I believe, look back in the day, that a lot of hotels and boarding houses and bread and breakfast wouldn't even if you had long hair or, you were dressed in denim or whatever, they probably didn't even want you.
Oh, a lot of times, yeah. I mean, that's what was the same in Hollywood in the 20s. They said no Irish and no actors at the hotel.
That's right.
I was talking about this the other day because I remember one of my first B&Bs in Hammersmith in London, and they had a sign on the door: no Irish, no blacks, no dogs.
And that's John Lydon. John Lydon talked about that, wasn't that even the title of his book or something?
And that was the late 60s.
Yeah. and I don't think they would look very kindly upon rock bands and roadies a lot of places as well. The other ones that might have were out of your reach in terms of money, but
and the outrageousness would have been, the word would be out. You know, they were very wary because we didn't look like your typical businessman. You know, I mean, you're seeing the adult versions of us, but we were loud and hairy.
It wasn't It wasn't so yuppie back in those days. It was more hippie. You know, I mean, in London was a pretty contemporary place, so I don't remember getting scrutinized that much for flats. Really, you're just lucky if you could find one.
Well, there was a lack of facilities. I mean, you guys mentioned before we started that you would start after a gig, you wouldn't be able to find anywhere to do anything.
Pubs to be shut.
Yeah,
you'd be lucky. You'd be lucky to find anywhere to get something to eat. Definitely nowhere to get anything to drink. You know what I mean? If you wanted a drink afterwards, after work, sit down, have a beer, no way. You could not find it anywhere in England.
Unless you were working in London, you know, you had a few options in London. But if you're driving back 150 miles, you just get back and you're fucking straight to bed, you know, or collapse.
Yeah. And
because you were out the next day.
Yeah,
heading another 150 miles in a different direction. The
reason we mention it is because of the contrast between that and the US, which we're going to get onto when you first made your trips there. Like Britain in the 60s and 70s, early 70s, closed. Everything closed.
Yeah. Well, you know, like we would do the odd gig, like we were saying, bed and breakfast, or you'd stay with a friend of somebody in the band. If you're really somebody come up with an impossible drive, they might get a hotel. But I started like an actual tour in 73 with Steel Eye Span, who are very established, like folk rock. We've talked about them before. And we stayed at a chain of hotels called the Post House. And they're everywhere. And being me, I've still got all the itineraries. And they were like catering to business people. They didn't get the concept of like anything after hours, so you sometimes get locked out. You know, this is a major chain, and you without fail you'd come back after the gig. You were still on a bit of a high, and you just wanted to hang out in the lobby. They didn't want you to hang out in the lobby. You couldn't get anything to take away. You might be looking to get some old ham and cheese sandwiches and a bottle of warm beer, if you were lucky. And this was a top touring, like top out of town hotels, like in around the country.
Yeah,
it doesn't change that much, Granny, to be honest. Coming up the road now, it really hasn't. You know,
I would have thought the gastro pubs and things were more prevalent. I would have thought now.
Yeah, but once you get back to the hotel at 1 o'clock in the morning, there's nothing.
Especially in smaller towns. Yeah, I mean, but so I'd just like to say hi to Courtney, who's here.
Good old Courtney, Navina, Courtney, and the regulars.
So that's the UK,
right?
But you did start touring in Europe. I know you did some various tours in Europe. I know Granny, you did quite a few.
Yeah, me and Mal.
Yeah. Mal, was that a different experience again? Like France, Italy?
I think they were a little bit more open, but you know, you weren't staying at like particularly fancy hotels. It would be somebody the promoting you, but. I think they were a little looser in Europe, and there was more of that cafe society. Maybe that everything stayed open later anyway. I don't think it was quite the same. England's just so hidebound and traditional, and you know that mentality. Whereas I think France and Italy and Germany had late night stuff.
I do remember one specific thing about
you were still closing pubs at 10:30 at night.
But in Europe, they would be open late.
Yeah, Mark, you were.
I was just main memory about the first time into Europe, duvets. We never had duvets in the UK.
What the hell's that?
Yeah, it's like
what's this fluffy thing?
Yeah, it's brilliant. It's like, you know, and so clean. You know, the hotels were so clean. And little guest houses and stuff like that, but it's so clean.
And of course, we couldn't figure out why there was a second toilet. Connected to the main toilet. We'd never heard of B-days. We only had a bath on Mondays in Hartlepool, so we didn't do much bathing.
This toilet's very refreshing.
Well, here's one fight about hotels. In Amsterdam, old Ma Bodies
I remember that.
The Rowdies go.
Rowdies. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
So what's the name of that? Sorry, Wilco. Say
It
that
was Old Ma Bodies,
again. Okay, Old Ma Bodies. Yeah.
where the Rowdies go. And I went there in '73, and of course Bruce McCaskill, God bless him, he stayed there, and that's where we stayed. And they did accommodate everything. Everything in the rock and roll business was right there. Of course, I was chasing the daughter for about 2 days. You know,
Did you catch her?
Along with everybody else.
She told me to F off. I don't know why.
I'm trying to find a picture of it, but I keep getting old pictures of old men's bodies. That's not quite what I'm looking for.
Stay at Amsterdam. We used to stay at the American Hotel. It was called the American Hotel in Amsterdam. Very Art Deco. Very, they left it just as it was. And I remember being there one time, and the American ambassador came in to have lunch. Well, he got accompanied. He went for a piss, with 4 other people. I don't know what they were up to. Maybe they were doing, it was Amsterdam. So who knows what was going on in that bathroom, But that was a fantastic place. I don't know if it's still there. I hope it is. It's just an iconic, beautiful Art Deco hotel.
But it's a great example of hotels that didn't mind having bands and roadies and rockers and people of a slightly alternative lifestyle, as opposed to Britain, which was probably still is very hidebound in many ways. And
the Sinester in Amsterdam was where I went, and they were totally there for rock and rollers.
Yeah, Amsterdam was one of those open cities, though, wasn't it? Like Berlin was, Berlin, Amsterdam.
You walk across the street and you got the Yab Club.
Yeah.
What was the one you were going to say, Brian?
Oh no, I was just going to say that the what does it mean by catering to the rock and roll crowd, though? I mean, in terms of, was it just open later, more drink and other other availability or tolerance of other things?
Yeah. Bit of evidence.
Yeah, just the tolerance level was much better.
Did that mean hi-jinks, though, or just everybody was more relaxed?
I think
quite often there'll be a bar next to it or something, or downstairs, and that'll be open really late, in Amsterdam. Sort of drink to whenever you wanted to, plus other recreational things. It's like
they could direct you to the right place for what you needed. They would insider stuff.
Yeah, there's usually a place right next door or downstairs. So.
Yeah, you go to the Bulldog. Go to the Bulldog. That's where
the bands would be staying there with you, though. It'd be bands and roadies.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Whereas in Britain, what happened? Did the bands stay in a hotel and you guys slept in the van, or what was it?
The band were getting home as well,
Yeah, I mean, it was
we were all traveling together.
I think there was no budget for hotels at all.
No.
The band had a car with a driver, and he would drive them all home. That's
what Kevin Harrington did. And
Harrington, that's who I was thinking of, Kevin.
Yeah, personal manager, and the band might stay in hotels when we were touring. A bit later on, when we were doing, city halls and stuff like that. Bigger situations.
Yeah.
But even so, still
the budget increased.
So Courtney's talking about the Hard Rock in Amsterdam, which she says she thinks was the American hotel, or is. I don't know what they changed the names.
Now. Oh, it's very distinguished hotel because of its all Art Deco, stained glass, wooden paneling.
So that was an eye opener then, but then of course you all started to get gigs and tours in America, and a totally different world, I'm assuming.
Oh yeah, I mean, I sent you a scan of that postcard of the Holiday Inn outside of Boston.
Yeah,
it's like a big long postcard. And when I arrived, I had just been listening to the Frank Zappa album, the live album, where he was talking about the Edgewater Inn at Seattle and all groupies, and I just couldn't believe that we were in a Holiday Inn in America. We just arrived, and we were sitting in the bar just waiting for it all to happen. And we were in like that's it, Newton, outside of Boston. We thought every single hotel in America was just rocking on its foundations with parties and.
You look at this one, it's a huge block, and then it's got a big swimming pool and this enormous dining room inside.
That's right.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
different
Holiday
world,
Inn. And I remember the signs on the Holiday Inn, sort of like, the world's innkeeper and sort of welcome to the Sunshine State. But occasionally, like a promoter would get it right and actually get like welcome Wishbone Ash.
Exactly.
I was going to say, haven't we got Grange? You must have that picture of welcome Wishbone Ash.
Do I? Oh, I don't know.
You must have.
We might have it
Yeah, like
somewhere.
that.
You've sent it to me. I've got it somewhere.
But there's the Holiday Inn, the world's innkeeper.
Yeah, that's right.
So I guess they were exceptionally popular on the circuit then for bands.
Well, they were the bog standard hotel. That every city, everywhere, same price. Yeah.
So you check into a Holiday Inn. There was no looking you up and down. Like, who are you? You just you were welcome. You had money, and it was like a completely different vibe than a typical English hotel.
And sometimes the bar would be open late.
Also
the lounge.
They used to put bands on in the Holiday Inns too.
Yeah, the lounge bars, the lounge bands.
When I was with the AWBs, we checked into Arizona, and I'm checking in. There's a big sign on the counter, Photops playing tonight, and I was like, "What?" So we saw the Photops at one place, and about a week later, we saw the Temptations.
Same band.
Yeah.
So
different more people up there.
Yeah. So certain bands and acts are notorious though. So Keith Moon apparently was banned from Holiday Inns, or the Who were banned, but here they are wishing him a happy birthday. And there's the infamous story of and it's not ever proven to be true, that he apparently drove a Lincoln Continental into the swimming pool of the Holiday Inn Flint,
Michigan.
Yeah. Is that really true or not? It's hard to say, but you've got in case of Keith Moon break glass.
Yeah.
That's it. I mean, the Who were renowned. They were the classics, throwing TVs out the window and fucking wrecking the hotel rooms and stuff. Which was a bit of a fashion back then.
Yeah, the Flint, Michigan one is where that supposedly happened, which is this particular one. I guess you guys stayed there as well, though, at various times.
It looks familiar.
I definitely did. I think on my first tour of America, I stayed there.
Flint,
look at those cars, man! Look at those cars. Yeah. Chevrolet Impalas, fucking brilliant.
Cool, yeah. Holiday Inns, were they quite? I mean, I know the Who probably tested them to their limits, but were they quite tolerant otherwise, Holiday Inn chain?
Not really. I mean, it got worse. They really started to come down on it, but there was a lot of cases of run for your life. When you check in, just sort of leave.
Do they grow it? Oh, God.
Throw the keys out the window of the car.
Yeah. But there's some exceptionally famous ones. I know there's millions of hotels, but the exceptionally famous ones, I know you guys have all been there and stayed there. Obviously, the Continental Hyatt House.
The Riot.
On the Strip, the Riot House. What are your recollections of staying in that place?
Well, for me, it was in 75, and I was actually staying in Manhattan Beach, and the band was staying at the Riot House. I wasn't the tour manager. I was doing the back line. And I never smoked the pot at all until I got to America. And I was staying with a guy called Roach Clip, so work it out.
Phil Ashley.
So it was like Bruce McCaskill calls the house. Like, okay, we leave in 2 days. Come on up, and I gave me some float. So and I was really stoned. I walked in. There must have been 70 chicks in the lobby. And he walked right up to me, and I've got to say this. I fucking shit myself. I was like, "What?" And they're going, "What band you with? Have you got any coke? What room are you in? We'll come upstairs with you. We party." And I was fucking freaking out. So eventually, I got to the room, and the guys were like, "You okay?" I was like, "Yeah, just give me the money. I got to get out of here." I mean, I did a runner. Because I'm too high to qualify,
Was it kind of scary for, to
be a Brit? It was out of control. I mean, that was just in the lobby. I went to the bar and it was about 200 in the bar.
It was.
It was great. It was just chicks everywhere and all dressed up in the 70s stuff, the bell bottoms, the knockers hanging out and all that. It was great. It
would have been at its height then. I mean, Aerosmith, Led Zeppelin, all those guys would be hanging out there. Bands lived there, did they not?
Yeah.
They didn't just stay there on tour; they lived there. Welcome to Christian, by the way.
Yeah,
Great
Christian.
fingers and
There's a famous story of Zeppelin staying there a few years before we were there, I think, and they had the whole floor rented.
Yeah, well, this is the view from their balcony. There's Robert Plant and some people on the balcony.
Right.
Some people that's apparently on the balcony.
Every band had, like the Who would take one floor, Zeppelin would take another floor.
Yeah,
you know, and it was Deep Purple would take another one. That's when Willie Fife, I think Willie was the guy on the motorbike that went down the hall.
Was it Willie? Was it?
Yeah, it was Willie. That was in the Almost Famous movie. You know,
yeah, because it's been in tons of movies. Almost Famous.
Yeah.
There's been tons of other movies that the Riot House has been featured in.
Yeah.
Usually, Spinal Tap, for instance, they're sitting around interviewing them around the pool.
Right.
In the Riot House. There's a view from the balcony of.
It's up on a hill. It's a view of the city. You're in America. I mean, you really knew you were in Hollywood. First time I got there, we pulled up and there was a big Cadillac with steel on the hood, on the bonnet, the hood. I get mixed up with my English and American. Yeah, the big cattle horns on the front. Obviously, some guy from Texas. Every morning he'd come down. He was there with all of his crew having breakfast. Yeah. Big old caddy. That was America.
It was so exciting.
And there was another great thing was to get your name on a billboard like that Zeppelin thing. You know, we actually got it. Wishbone Ash one, which was brilliant. You know, you're on Sunset Boulevard. You've got your billboard up above it. You played at the Whiskey A Go Go. Yeah, it's like you're there. Heaven. You know, that was it.
I should call Smoother because he's got a photograph of me, and when I first got there in '75, just round the corner from the Riot House, there was a big board, and I climbed up it, and it was all about the Average White Band.
All right.
You know, the album number one single. And Smoother, I've got to get in touch with him, but he took a bunch of photographs of me actually climbing up this right up around the on the thing.
That's pretty cool if you get that picture.
What's that?
Just in the AWB.
Yeah, I had my head up there.
If you can get that photo, that would be great. Courtney's mentioning Pamela DeBar, but also Michael DeBar, her brother, who'd been hanging out all the time there.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, who did you encounter in your?
I've got one. I was in the bar there one time, and it was probably early afternoon, or maybe getting close to happy hour, and having a few drinks. And Paul Rodgers came in.
Oh yeah,
Wilco's mate.
Yeah, and he was with Bad Company at the time, and he said to me, "Now, you're from Hartlepool, right?" I said, "Yeah, that's right, Paul." He said, "Right, let's start a fight." I said, "What do you mean, Paul?" He said, "Let's start a fight. I'll go over, I'll punch that piano player, and then we'll just take on everybody." I said, "Paul, the guy was we'll think about it." But that was Paul. That was the time. Paul was. That's what he drunk.
Pugnacious.
Apparently,
I wonder who the piano player was.
I don't know. One of those lounge piano players in there.
All right.
Star Wars.
The guy, Star Wars. The fishbowl on top of the grand piano, and he'd be playing.
So Vinny Ward is here, and he's saying, "Good evening, gentlemen. I've got a big question coming up for you." Haha. So Vinny, ask question away. But this picture I'm interested in. Did you guys ever frequent the Tiger Den massage and sauna?
Didn't need to.
You need to. That was a takeaway back then.
No thanks.
I'm trying to remember the band I was with. I think it might have been Uriah, one of the guys. Yeah. There's a tattoo parlor close by there.
Yeah.
And one of the guys was totally rat-arsed, and we took him, and he got tiger's eyes tattooed on each cheek of his ass.
Not two W's then.
Of course you would.
So
Yeah, wow.
I can't remember who it was. I really can't remember.
I
that
think
was the times.
You're just not going to tell us. I think you know.
Yeah, I mean that tiger den. Going by the picture, it was just a short stagger away from the front doors. Look,
Well,
there's
it's right next to the front door. Apparently,
I think there's a restaurant on that site now, like a cowboy themed restaurant. But yeah, that couldn't be more convenient if you got the urge.
You guess you didn't need it, as you
say. You didn't need it.
Apparently, the hotel is still there, but it's now called the Andaz.
Andaz. I've been there since. It's like a boring corporate, just a shell now.
Well, what they've done as well is, you see all the balconies?
Yeah.
All that's gone. And it's all one big facade.
Oh, right.
It's really, they did to me, the bad job, because Tina Waters was there and I went and visited her about 6 years ago with the kids. So when you're walking out where the balcony is, I was like kind of afraid of it. It was like, wow, just a bit of glass holding me there. Because you could feel where they put the extensions in, I was like,
the rooms.
So here's another picture of what it looked like back in the days. Who's Kay Dennis? I've never heard of Kay Dennis.
She was probably playing in the
lounge. The piano player. Maybe that's who Paul Rogers wanted to punch.
And the next day it was Jelsa Palm,
Applejack, and then Applejack. Yeah, this must be way back.
Coming to the Red Roulette. Yeah, the Red Roulette must have been the name of the lounge.
The lounge.
And then we got Rodney Bingenheimer and others hanging out there in front of it.
No.
Yes. So tell us about Rodney.
Who the fuck was Rodney Bingenheimer?
He was just a hanger-on, wasn't
he?
The English disco. So that's the Riot House, of course, absolutely one of the most famous.
I think it was more because it was the location of it. It was right on Sunset. You had Tower Records pretty much next door.
Yeah.
Then you got the Roxy, the whiskey, everything was there. Some of the
Comedy Store was right next door. Famous comedians. I mean, it was fantastic.
It wasn't the only one, of course.
What was the place for breakfast up the road?
Money.
Drake's.
No.
There was a diner. There was a diner, wasn't there? Just next to Tower Records.
There was a diner. You've just showed that picture of the Sunset Marquee.
Because I was going to say,
at the top of the hill, there was a
Ben Frank's.
Ben Frank's.
Which is a little joke on Ben Franklin, isn't it? Ben Franks.
Ben Franks. I sat next door. I sat next to. I'll come back to it. I can't remember his name.
See you in a moment.
Alice Cooper. Alice Cooper. It's just a guess.
No. He was an actor. He was in Shawshank Redemption.
The African American or the white guy?
The American.
Tom Hanks.
Morgan Freeman.
Morgan Freeman.
Morgan Freeman. I sat next to him.
Yeah, he's a good mate of mine.
Breakfast.
I couldn't see him every week.
And had breakfast with him.
He
started the conversation. I could not believe it because I'm thinking, I know this. Oh, God. And then
that's like breakfast with God. That's like breakfast with God, Mal. I mean,
he played God.
It was just one of those things.
Vinny's asking a very controversial question. Who smashed the most? Well, of course, nobody smashes. It's all making love. The most ladies in the hotels.
Craigsy. It's got to be Mal.
Which
Mal
one
has
of
the
you is
package.
the lady killer?
Mal's got the international package,
Has he got? How many notches have you got then, Mal? Where did you put them?
It's like guilty under arrest.
So we'll give Mal the honorary title there.
I think so.
But apart,
I'm counting.
Where was the Sunset Marquee in relation to the Riot House then?
It was just along Sunset and then down.
Yeah.
Just down on the side street.
It was staggering distance.
Yeah.
Because it seems like a lot of bands hung out there too. I mean, it was
absolutely.
It was much nicer.
Yeah.
Right. I was going to say, what's the comparison? Was it just a bit more pleasant?
You got a suite there, first of all.
Right.
Everything was a suite. It was a big living room, kitchen, and your bedroom. So you got a lot more.
With a sliding door onto the pool.
All of those right there was just unbelievable. I
Because
mean,
there's the pool area in
you
fairly
stagger out.
recent times.
Rod Stewart done a video there around that pool.
All right.
You know, Rod and the Faces.
Okay. All right.
Done a video around that room.
I mean, I think they really respected the rock stars that stayed there. You can tell by the imagery and stuff. You know,
Well, look at that. Yeah.
Look at that. Look at that layout. You know, look at the layout. You
I-
think of the Riot House. You come down the elevator into the lobby. That's boring. But look at that. You come out and you're walking around the pool and all the
At the
people
smallest
stretched
lobby
out.
of any hotel. The lobby was tiny.
Well, if you look at the front, it doesn't look like it's that big, is it really? But it's
Well,
more,
that's about the size of the lobby.
They didn't let any riffraff in there. There was no, you know, it wasn't sort of all groupies and stuff like that. Yet it was exclusive, and they kept it private for the bands.
so much more private partying rather than general public.
Yeah.
And
Still plenty of partying, but
for quite a few years, it didn't even have a bar or a restaurant.
No.
You know,
I wondered what I wondered what the difference was between them, because they're both equally famous, but it sounds like the Riot House was a riot house.
Yeah.
Whereas this, if they wanted a bit of peace and quiet,
Sunset Marquee was laid back Southern California.
Right.
Whereas the Riot House was your city hotel. It just happened to be in Hollywood.
Rock
so
and
the whole
roll.
vibe was completely
rock and roll, heavy metal. That's, you know.
When was the last time any of you guys went to the Sunset Marquee?
Well, last time I was
been there since 2000.
Okay. It's all, if you put the picture back up, it's all completely changed. Not that one, this one. So you've got this, but when you come through the lobby, you turn left and you walk all the way around, and it's a huge, huge restaurant. It's a huge bar that's been there for about 10 years.
Okay.
And they built a whole bunch of other cottages right back.
They had those cottages.
Yeah, that's where
the stars used to stay in the cottages, because that was like staying in a penthouse suite. Yeah, 1 and 2 bedroom cottages there.
Well, as Amal mentioned it, this isn't just about rock stars, of course, actors. I mean, Hollywood and actors would all be a huge part of that scene too.
Yeah.
Well, this is another one of these occasions, like you come from our background and you're in these locations and you can't believe it. You know, there we were, like Mal's hobnobbing with Morgan Freeman, and you were aware that you were in this Hollywood vibe, Southern California. It was unreal. It was incredible.
I imagine to this day, Morgan Freeman tells the story of how he met Mal Craigs.
Yeah.
Mal
did he?
Craigs.
Morgan Freeman
and went Mal Craigs.
That's right. That guy used to hang out with Phil Collins.
Well, I met Mal Craigs at the Sunset Marquee. You were on tour with Phil Collins at the time, and we were just sat around the pool in the afternoon, and Phil came walking through, and he was such a modest guy. He was like sort of like, I think he had a gig that night or something. There was like 20,000 people or some shit, and he's like, short, bold, hairy legs, fucking, and the way he talked about himself, it's like he had no idea why he was such a big star.
Mark, you're talking about Mal.
About Phil Collins, are you now?
You're talking about Mal.
I'm talking about Phil Collins.
No,
but yeah, I just met up with Mal, because obviously we were friends, and he was on tour at the time when I was in LA, and blah blah blah. So but yeah. That's when
I had a beer with Billy Bob Thornton at the Sunset Marquee.
All right, that's
I
pretty
had
cool.
lots of beers with Booby at Sunset Marquee.
Booby.
So there's so many hotels we could talk about, and you guys have spent time about. Another one you did mention to me beforehand was Swingos in the rock and roll capital of the world, Cleveland.
Yeah.
And that's where I met Elvis Presley.
Right. Okay. Well, expand on that.
Milko, you go first.
Well, it was really funny because when we play Chicago, it is party night, and
Cleveland.
We came from Chicago into Cleveland, so I get there with the boys, AWB, and we're going for lunch, and we notice these chicks in the lobby, and we're like, "Oh, what's going on here?" So all of a sudden, the doors come smashing open, and in comes Elvis. And it was like, get out of the way, making so much unnecessary bullshit to get him to his room, right? So they get him upstairs, and then, Molly Duncan was staying with me in my suite. And it was one of those days of like 2 days off. And he's like, how many joints do we have? I went 5. Okay. So what are we going to do? I said, we're going to go to the room. We're going to smoke 4. And we're going to get completely doolally. And then we're going to go for a long walk. And then we're going to go home. And that's the night. You go, okay. So we did. We opened the door, and there was 2 African-American police officers. What are you doing on this floor? It's my room. No, it isn't. This is Elvis's floor. Well, I suggest you go downstairs and speak to the reception because this is my room. And it was like going up and smoke. The fucking smoke is coming out of the room and they're going, smoking pot? And I'm like, no. Oh, so now you're lying to us. I was like, oh, here we go. I said, okay, we're just going for a walk. And he goes, put your hand behind your head, will you? Like an idiot, I did. The next thing I know, the cuffs on me.
Cuffed you.
So I'm going to effing jail in Cleveland. And then all of a sudden you hear, you can't arrest him. It's the average white man. It's AWB. So these 2 black cops are like, AWB, mother effer, are you kidding me? So they took the things off, and Molly and I, our faces were white. My knees were buckling, And it was Paul Gongaware from the big production company back in the day.
Concerts West.
Concerts West. Yeah, they did everybody. And he goes, yeah, you can't arrest them. Elvis is playing tonight, and they're playing tomorrow. It's like, oh, okay. And of course, it was one of those things of like, do you want to bring your family? You're like, oh, yeah, we'd love to bring the family. It's like, 50 tickets went in about 2 seconds, And then all of a sudden, he's Elvis going to a sound check. And he had no clue who we were. It was like, he was out of it. I'm going, why are you taking him to a sound check? Put him to bed for a couple of hours. It was like, it was great, but it was like.
But you almost got arrested because of Elvis, really. It was Elvis's fault.
Yeah, it was his fault that I was smoking pot. If he wasn't there, I wouldn't be doing it.
Actually, I noticed on this image of Swingos that it talks about NHL and NBA teams. So again, another bunch of people that were in these hotels, sports stars.
Yeah,
particularly football stars. You must have bumped into a few of those American football guys over the years in these places too.
I did. I have no idea what the names were. They were NBA players. And of course, I was going into the sexual situation,
Well, here's Wilco in Swingos, just whining and dining somebody.
It never, ever looked like that when I was there, ever. Looked more like Gene Simmons there.
Yeah.
That's right.
And also remember, the Beatles stayed here.
Oh, all right, they stayed in Swingos?
Yeah, they stayed in Swingos. Yeah. They stayed in the Edgewater in Seattle.
I like it says take her to Swingos before someone else does, instead of take her in Swingos before somebody else does.
I didn't get to meet Elvis on that. I didn't meet Elvis on that trip, but I had breakfast with Colonel Tom Parker.
Oh, you did. Good for you. Yeah,
it was bizarre. I mean, he initiated the conversation. I was just sitting at the counter. He's just creepy little fucker,
Oh yeah. Is this what the rooms really looked like? For those who are listening, it's all velvet. Well, let's say velvet. It's all.
No, there's a name for that stuff.
Orange shag carpet.
This is shag carpet.
Well, you see those chandeliers?
Yeah.
I was up doing blow one night, and I took them all apart.
Oh, jeez.
I took them all off, cleaned them, and put them all back on again.
This is the height of 70s luxury, I guess.
Yeah.
That'll be all that static electricity, through that carpet and the You get shocks everywhere.
The funny thing was, we just left the Astor Towers in Chicago, and that was a hotel.
Yeah,
it was one of the first hotels that was on runners, because Windy City, and we would be stoned some nights, and I'd be looking out, going, "Wow, what's happening?" And the building would be moving. It was like.
Yeah, I don't have a picture of that.
I have to correct you. The train spotter has to correct you. It's not called the Windy City because of wind. It's the wind from all the politicians. Because after the big fire, they had to resell it to America, and everybody was and so everybody's looking down their noses at the Midwest. What can a city like Chicago? So that's what I heard.
I did. We don't want to hear that story, Granny.
Every now and then I throw a little education.
I'm going to go back to Swingos.
Yeah. Oh, there you go.
That's where I proposed to my wife, Sandy.
Good for you.
I was on a Peter Gabriel tour, and just so happened I'd been in the bar there. And it never looked like, I'd never seen anybody in a dicky bow there and nobody in a suit. That was one of those places you got back. The party had already started before you
It was
got
a
back
rock
from
and
the
roll
gig.
place. The guy that owned it, I can't
pure
remember.
rock and roll.
What was the guy's name that owned it? But he was a bit of a eccentric rocker. He loved partying.
Well, you know, Delaney and Bonnie, Bonnie Bramlett, when I joined the Allman Brothers in 1980, she was a singer. And one of the famous things in Swingos was when she punched out Elvis Costello.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah, because he said something racist or something.
No, he was basically, he was being him, which another a-hole in the business. When he was starting out, he was a complete asshole.
He was sticking it to them, trying to.
He was
trying to wind people up. Yeah.
What it was, he was at the bar, didn't know she was, and Bonnie is a big girl, and Elvis came up, and he's going, "There's only one Elvis, and I'm it." She's going, oh, and she goes like, "Actually, who are you?" He goes, "I'm Elvis Costello." She goes, "Elvis Presley is Elvis. You just some fucking wanker from England. Get the hell out of town and all that stuff." So he said, "Start doing this." She knocked him out. She knocked him out flat.
I like the woman.
And when I joined them in 1980, she wasn't in the. She was in the band for about a year. So every time we knew that Elvis Costello was, we bumped into them. I mean, I bumped into him in Nashville in the hotel, which I can't remember the name. My daughter was just born, Kate, and Costello was like, "I remember you," and all this stuff. And the problem with Costello was his manager, Jake. And he was out. They were both arguing with me.
Jake Riviera.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And guess whose tour bus just pulled up? The Allman Brothers. Fucking Dickie got off that bus, ran up to Costello, and kicked him all the way down the stairs while I was nutting Jake, giving him the fucking Glasgow kick. You know. And they refused to pay the hotel bill. So they got arrested in New York, I think. They flew to New York.
Hey, it was the punk era. I guess he was trying to be a punk. Oh, what's that? All right, let me just expand you on this. Let me make you bigger.
And it's backwards, of course.
Oh, it's backwards, of course, because you've got your.
I can. Oh no, I forgot to mirror it. This is my get out of jail free card from Cleveland, and that's Cleveland Police Department. Greg Bappler, Commander, 2nd District. And he was a security guy on Phil Collins' Genesis tours that I did, multiple. And he was like the youngest police commander of Cleveland Police Department. But he was moonlighting. He'd take a month off. Come on tour with us, great guy,
good gig,
a big guy, very imposing. You didn't argue. Nobody argued with Greg. Apart from he carried at least 3 guns as well.
You'd have professional security by those days. Everything was professional.
Yeah, we had at least 2 security people, and generally they were policemen. Or that would take a month off, and we would pick them up in certain different areas.
Cleveland was a bit of a rough city, though. I mean,
it was
rock and roll city, but quite rough.
And it was also the biggest union in America. I remember
it has to work.
I got to the gig, and Granny. I looked at Granny, and I'm going, "Why isn't the back lineup?" And Granny's like, "You talk to them." So I did, and about 4 guys just picked me up, take me backstage, and going, "Do you want some lead boots? You don't talk to us that way." And they were pushing, these old guys were pushing cases around. And I think we went on about an hour and a half late on that gig.
Well, I mean, they would take your gear apart. You would spend ages setting it up so to make it easy to you wouldn't be wasting time, and they just trashed it. Setting it up, trashing it, and trashed it, taking it down.
2 hours to unload a truck, it took them 4.
Yeah.
They got better.
Well, but they had no incentive to get better.
They were the worst. New York and Cleveland were the worst union guys to work with. You couldn't touch the equipment. You could touch the purse. You they couldn't touch the guitars. Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
so,
I remember.
They couldn't touch the instruments.
so many rules, just
Yeah.
The unions were big back in those days. San Antonio, you couldn't move the gear. Carnegie Hall was the ultimate experience with unions.
New York was just horrendous.
I mean, I didn't understand it at all at the beginning. I'd never even heard the concept. I knew they had coal miners had unions and steel workers, but I had no idea that this
Roadies.
Existed. Theatrical unions.
Theatrical unions,
and you had different levels of them. You'd have the loaders, the stagehands, and the electricians.
Then you had the electrics,
But the guys that did just pushing the cases, just grunters, they would only. I'm only pushing light in cases. I say, well, that's got a light in it. The Fender Twin Reverb has a little on-off light. I say, well, that's got a light in it. He'd push it. That's what you're dealing with.
It's so bureaucratic. I mean, this is one thing I've always found fascinating about the States is that for all the sort of freedom ethos, there's hugely bureaucratic. They love bureaucracy.
Yeah.
They love it. Yeah. And I guess the unions are cool.
The unions are.
And speaking of bureaucratic, you'll recognize this place perhaps. It's I think this is the Mayflower, is it not? Is it the Mayflower?
Oh, I've never seen it from that angle.
Yeah.
I've never seen it from that angle.
That's taken from the park.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've never realized that those curved. Well, we weren't looking at that stuff back then.
Yeah,
I would never recognize that.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah.
No.
But you may recognize this because this is you guys in the Mayflower.
That's the roadie ball.
A notorious roadies ball. Yeah. I mean, that's.
Well, it was the hookers ball, and we all attended.
Combined, yeah.
Because there's probably more hookers per square inch in Washington, D.C. than there is anywhere else. But
this is the D.C. Mayflower?
I think it's the D.C.
Oh, I've been to that as well, yeah. The one in New York is...
Oh, New York's a
New
different
York.
one, yeah.
Flat walled.
But I've been to this one too. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a few of them, yeah. Some of them, there's multiple, like Drakes. There's a lot of Drakes. There's a lot of Edgewaters in different cities.
Yeah.
Another one, though, you may have encountered was the Gramercy Park, of course.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, I don't think that's a hotel anymore.
Probably condominiums.
Yeah. It's condominiumed now.
Yeah. I never stayed there.
Oh, I did.
But you had guys like David Mallory and so on.
I stayed there on my very first tour of America, and the bar there apparently it was famous for its cocktail. Yeah, so I went in and I said, "I'll have one of those," and he said, "Do you want vodka or gin?" And I said, "Oh, I'll have gin." Martini. I went, okay. I drank my second one and fell off my stool.
Real drinks.
Finished it and I just went whoosh onto
it's
the
like
floor.
that though, isn't it? I mean, did you ever go to Bemelman's? Did you ever go up to Bemelman's in Cafe Carlisle? The Bemelman's bar in the Upper East Side.
Oh, no.
I went up there. We went in and I asked for a malt whiskey, and I think I got a glass that was like, I don't know how many portion, whatever you measure it. It was that deep. It was. I asked for a single, and it was like that.
Well, the martinis you used to do was literally the classic martini: a bit of vermouth, swish it round the glass, and chuck it away, and then fill the glass up with gin and put an olive in or a piece of lemon. And that's it's like,
it's like the famous Dean Martin saying.
I was still fresh out of Hartlepool's. Used to be pints of Camerons, and then I had two of those, which is about equivalent to a quart of gin. The
classic Dean Martin saying, martinis are like women's breasts. One's not enough and three's too many.
Yeah. I agree with him completely.
That was it, Mark.
Yeah. I remember the old, I think it was Billy Connolly talking about some bar in America where they had a drink called the Zombie. And he's sitting at the stool drinking it. He says, "This is fine. What's the matter about this?" And he tried to get up and he fell over. His legs had disappeared.
But the Gramercy Park Hotel, I went there on my first tour as well, and it was just fascinating to be in the. I keep talking about like being from our background, to be sitting in a bar like at the Gramercy Park, watching a guy mixing these drinks. It was like being in a movie. It was fascinating. Blue drinks, and, you know. It was just another reminder. Like, hey, you're coming up in the world. We couldn't afford the drinks, but it was fascinating to watch them.
I think my first hotel in New York was the Holiday Inn on 57th Street.
Oh, the City Squire. Remember the City Squire? Yeah. That was the rock and roll hotel in Midtown.
Yeah, it wasn't necessarily a rock and roll hotel, but I think we were up on the God knows 27th floor or something. And you could open the windows in those days, and you could look down on the street, and there's these giant cars, which I'd never seen, you know, from that angle before. It was just amazing, you know. It's like local to America. It's totally.
Yeah, you can't get those windows open.
Sorry, Brian.
You can't get those windows open now.
Not now. No. The City Squire Hotel. It had a swimming pool. I think I'm on about the 7th floor, and I was in there swimming, and I banged my head on the end of the pool, and it was a glass side to the pool, and you could just make out through the water this traffic. So the end of the pool was actually the window.
Scary.
It was weird, yeah.
And then, Granny, you sent this one, and I think we talked
Chicago.
About the Playboy.
Yeah. Brilliant.
Oh, yeah. Every room came with a copy of Playboy and a fake leather bed cover.
All right.
Very sticky.
Well, we used to get a lot of the Playboy bunnies to our parties. And
I went there with the white band. Yeah, the white band always played there.
And I remember the night that Mr. Grange played the piano with his penis.
With my knob, yeah.
Well, is that the white keys or the black keys, though?
I was laughing so much. I mean, this girl is playing a piano and being all cool. My suite at the Astor Towers had 3 grand pianos. It was that big.
Wow.
And Granny and I look at her and we go, "Why don't you play it with your tits?" She goes, "Why don't you play it with your knob?"
Okay.
That's all we need.
Of course he did.
It's like ding, ding, ding. It's funny.
Played
profundo.
Chopsticks.
Yeah.
Granny, the Astor Towers, when the Brecker brothers and the wives came into the bedroom and opened the closet, and what was going on in the closet?
I was in there, wasn't I?
Yeah, Wilco and Granny with one old boiler.
So they'd got into the closet.
Oh, that was really funny because the wife goes, "And you're on tour with these guys?" And the band, both the Brecker brothers go, "Nothing to do with us. We're just looking for the party." And I was like, "Come on in, it's in here."
Oh dear.
But there was a lot of whiskey involved in those days. I mean, I won't say I wasn't a weirdo anyway, but the whiskey certainly fueled a lot of it.
When you go back in the 70s, no matter where you went, the drinks were drinks.
Oh yeah.
It was a proper drink. You know, you couldn't. You know, that other place on Sunset, it's now a Jaguar. I think it was called the Black Angus or the Black Bull. It was right opposite.
The Cock and Bull, English.
Yeah. One night we're in there, Rod Stewart and all the band were in there. Remember, Grant? And
no, but
oh no, it was unbelievable. I mean, I got a gin and tonic. I was like, what? It was like, I thought it was gasoline. If somebody threw a
Dean Martin used to go there regularly at the same time as we were going. Dean Martin, I think he went there every night.
I remember in Philadelphia I'm going back now to a Holiday Inn. We in the early 70s I'd done a tour. It might have been with you, Mark, on a Wishbone, but maybe it was with somebody else. We'd done a show at the Tower Theatre. And I had to stay load the truck and stuff like that. And then I got back to the Holiday Inn in Market Square, Philadelphia, and I went, "Where's the party?" And they went, "No, the party room's there." So off to the party room. In the party room, I went, "Right, I've got some catching up to do."
I know what's going on.
"No, Mel, take it easy. Yeah, I'm 2 hours behind you guys." He went, "That's PCP." I was like, "Exhale."
I'm shocked.
You've never been the same since, have you?
You know, too late by then. And this is what I remember. I vividly remember it to this day. This was in the early 70s. We're now in the early 23s. So it was 100 years ago. And I remember it vividly. I thought,
stuff,
I've got Valium in my room. I'll go and take a Valium, calm me down. So I head for the elevator, punch the button. I get in the elevator and I look. It's covered in blood. The whole elevator smothered in blood. I punched my floor. Nothing happened. The elevator goes down. The doors open. There's a guy laying on the floor, bleeding everywhere. Cops at reception.
Did you check his pockets?
Oh my!
It's like The Shining.
Oh my God! Hit the floor! Hit the button! Hit the button! And it went up. Right. I got to my floor. Got to my room. I thought, right, orange juice, Valium. Chill out. Chillax. Just chillax, Mal. Laid on the bed. As my head hit the pillow, the radio at the side of the bed, because you always had that bedside radio with the alarm clock. Pink Floyd, Money, ding, 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 came on. I was like, you on the fucking ceiling at this time. I was just like,
nightmare.
I remember you told me that story before. I
was out the door, did not face anybody. I just got out the elevator.
I've got an excessive drug story as well.
Gone. Great, gone. I don't know if that was real or it was the drug, but I remember it so vividly to this day.
There's a moral in there somewhere, I'm sure.
There is.
No. Yeah, don't take it.
So one
PCP.
Yeah.
The other one was angel dust.
Ooh.
And
wasn't that the same thing?
I don't know. Maybe it was.
I think it was the same thing.
Well, the elephant tranquilizer.
Yeah, I think it was.
That was Keith Moon's favourite. He used to collapse at the drum kit.
And they needed it for me, you know what I mean?
These two girls in Chicago, it was back in the sort of David Bowie time when everyone was sort of dressed up with sort of, weird makeup and everything like that. And and they spiked me with this, whatever it was, angel dust. And it was like a fucking flight. They actually ended up. I thought I was a fucking plane. It's very dangerous stuff. I ended up getting delivered to the airport by these two girls. Sort of one on each arm, sort of like in a hell of a state.
Been up all
night.
Mark.
That reminds me of Johnny Depp in Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. Him and Benicio del Toro. They're trying to get up to the casino, and they're like this. Yeah. Have you ever seen that movie?
I actually made the flight. I don't know how, but
you
wouldn't be allowed on now.
You weren't on the plane, but you made the flight.
Made the flight. I was already flying. I didn't.
Now here's a good one that every roadie has to know. When you run out of cigarette papers, what do? And every hotel in the world has got one in the drawer. And I saw this with
the Bible.
Snoop Dogg, the Bible. Snoop Dogg was on Facebook last night, and he was talking about it, and we did the same thing. And Phil Ashley told me, it goes third page in. It's a thin piece of paper. You just take it out, and I was going, but somebody's already took it. He goes, we'll get another room.
Get another page.
Get another page. No, but it was the third page or the second page.
Oh, it's the only good one.
It was all right.
So there's all these Bibles all over the States with
missing pages. So before we wrap up, guys, our good friend Lena is asking which hotel in which country had the most comfortable mattress. So basically, where did you get the best sleep? Where was the best sleep?
Didn't sleep.
Never slept.
Four Seasons. We were in Boston on a Genesis tour, and Mike Rutherford bought the bed because it was so comfortable.
It was so good. Okay.
No, I'll second you on that. I've been to quite a few Four Seasons, and they're really, really cool hotel rooms.
That'd be
Yeah,
super kings.
I can
super
sleep on a
kings.
clothesline. I don't. Nothing really stands out. I can sleep standing up. I'm asleep now, actually.
You are.
Yeah,
do.
Okay, I just want to thank Lina and Vinny for joining in. They've been watching all the way along. That's her producer. So thanks for watching, guys.
Yeah,
and everyone else who's watching as well. Keep subscribing and
Yeah, thanks to everyone that's been in the chat and chatting away, and we really do appreciate you being here. And yeah, keep spreading the word and getting the word out there about these wonderful shows. All these great memories.
Don't drink and walk.
No, just drink, don't walk.
Just drink, don't walk.
Don't walk. Walk, don't run.
Got my hand back.
Yeah, walk this way. And lots of other songs.
It looks like it's been sewn back on.
This is Frankenstein's Halloween. He's got his Frankenstein arm on already.
It rotates.
No, the thing is, no, Mark, you know what happened. They took the cast off and immediately started using that hand again, and he's already built up the muscle quite a lot.
No, I tell you, since the cast came off, it's worse. I mean, it's so painful because you keep forgetting and you go for things and it's like
Yeah.
But the bone is good. I got the boner good.
Good. You got the boner good. Yeah.
Your boner's good.
Well, gentlemen, it's awesome, gentlemen. Thank you for sharing all these great memories. Has anybody got any closing words they would like to give before it's too late?
Good night.
Good night. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm exhausted at the end of these things. I'm exhausted.
It's 9 o'clock where I am.
Mal, do you want me to give you the score? Do you want me to give you the Liverpool score?
I don't know.
Do you want me to give it to you?
No.
Okay.
I'm going to watch it. I've got.
Mute.
I've not purposely not been looking, Will.
Okay.
No, that reminds me of the
I just want to thank everyone for watching, and sharing, and hope you enjoy all the stories.
Yeah.
It's great. These guys have got really fantastic stories.
It's incredible.
I've got one or two I can throw in there, but it's great history going down.
We'll have the opportunity to tell even more stories in all the weeks and months to come. Yeah. Just a reminder, the football thing reminds me of that Likely Lads episode where they spent the entire day avoiding the score of the England game only to find the game had been cancelled. Remember that? The Likely Lads.
Likely Lads. Northeast lads. Northeast.
Why, man? So,
lads.
Thank you from me to you guys for sharing all these great stories again. Please, everybody, if you're listening to this later, leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Will be more great shows week after week coming up, and lots of other great things happening with the Rowdies. So more to come on that in the future. Until next time, though, I hope you all stay well, gentlemen. I hope you're all healthy.
Everybody's well. Afterwards. I want to chat.
The next couple of weeks, guys.
Oh yeah, you got 2 weeks up, right?
For the next couple of weeks.
When
have a nice holiday, Mal. Have a nice holiday.
Brian, wrap it up.
I'm leaving Monday.
So we will. We'll
I'll
see you all
on Monday.
Yeah, we'll see you all soon.
Bye bye.